Today we're going to be doing the ultimate Elden Ring boss tier list. So I'm going to be ranking every single boss, the main storyline bosses and demigods and the side bosses, so every little dungeon shitty boss included. And on this tier list, I'm pretty sure it has every boss. I think it might be missing one or two, so I'll also add those in at the end. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're starting off here with Battle Mage Hughes. Hughes? I think it's Hughes. I don't really remember this boss. I'm going to be honest. I know he's a mage, and I know he's I think he's in Caelid. NPC plus mage equals D grade, unfortunately. Because most of the NPC fights are the same and I dislike mages, I'm going to put him in D. Next we have Beast Man of Farah. Actually the first boss I fought in the entire game. If you start off with some kind of strength build, you can actually just stagger him and he becomes extremely easy to kill. So I'm going to put him in C. I think he's a decent boss. I actually think he wouldn't have been a bad tutorial boss instead of Soldier of Godric. He actually teaches you a decent bit about the game because he is kind of spammy and does like 20 hit combos, but apart from that, he's nothing special, so we give him a C. Bell-bearing Hunter. One of the first bosses that gave me a lot of trouble, I will say that. The one in Caelid is an absolute joke, by the way. If you go and fight the one in Caelid, for some reason he is so overpowered. In fact, most things in Caelid seem to hit harder than other areas. But even Elima, who is like the name, who's meant to be the big boss of the bell-bearing hunters, I guess, or maybe he's just the bell-bearing hunter everywhere. I don't actually know. But I found it easier to kill Elima than the Caelid bell-bearing hunter. I also did have a bit of trouble from the Limgrave one. He's not the most enjoyable fight, I will say that. But I will put him on B grade. I think he is better than what we've had so far. He's a good boss because, you know, he throws his sword like some kind of Sith Lord. But I don't particularly enjoy fighting him mechanically. It wasn't something I super enjoyed the fight, but I still think he's a pretty decent boss, so I'll give him B. Next we have Borealis, the Freezing Fog, the first dragon on the list. He is an AoE dragon and he's in the ice area. You fight him on a cool frozen lake, so the aesthetic is pretty awesome. But really and truly, he's like every other dragon in the entire game, except he has ice, or frostbite. So I would put him in B. I think most of the dragons are pretty good, but they're just good. There's nothing too special about them. Once you've fought one or two dragons, you know, just kind of repetitive. So I'll give them B. Next, Cemetery Shade. I think this boss had potential to be good, but the fact that you kill it in 3 shots is kind of just makes it obsolete. Like, you don't even get to see its full range of powers because you kill him in like 10 seconds. So I'll give it a C. I think it had potential to be good. He looks like something straight out of a horror game, but when you go down in 3 shots, there's not really much there's not really much to do. I mean, they pair him with other bosses for a reason. So yeah, I'm gonna give him a C. Clean Rot Knights. Clean Rot Knights are a standard enemy. I don't particularly like them. I don't particularly dislike them. I'll give them a C. I think they're pretty easy to fight. I think there's a duo fight. There's the solo fight. None are particularly difficult. You can pretty easily backstab them too. And they're not exactly strong. They're not exactly the strongest enemy. Although they do hit hard if you get hit by specific attacks, but those attacks are also very easy to dodge. So I'll give it a C, pretty average enemy. Next we have Commander Niall. So Commander Niall, a lot of people really seem to love this boss. I think it's a good boss, but I wouldn't go so far to say it was an A tier. I'll put it in B, the highest B we have so far. I didn't find Commander Niall as challenging as other people did. I mean, of course he summons the 2 like Crucible Knights, or I'm not sure if they're Crucible Knights or just the other Knights, but they are kind of tough enemies. But I'm pretty sure you're meant to summon something to help you kill them. And when I fought Commander Niall 1v1, his attacks are pretty predictable unless you're extremely greedy and you keep trying to hit him while he's doing his whirlwind frostbite attacks, then maybe it is a difficult fight. But as long as you're patient with him, it's a pretty easy fight. I guess it can be tough to get that peg leg like lightning attack down, but for me it was pretty easy to dodge. So I think he's a solid boss, but I don't think he cracks the upper echelon of Elden Ring bosses. Blackblade Kindred can go fuck himself. He's going in F. I hate this boss. There's not much to say. I just hate him. Everything about this boss pisses me off. The arena is terrible because it's on a slope and then you have the stair thing. So everything is made 100 times harder. He has 2 different weapons, which in itself wouldn't be so bad if they didn't chunk literally 75% of your health with every hit. And the guy is a tank, especially the Caelid one. He's a fucking tank. Like, He pissed me off so much. Like, this boss was probably one of the most frustrating bosses I fought in the entire game. I literally hate him. Maybe I'm being harsh putting him in F, but he's staying there because I just don't like him. Next, Black Knife Assassin. Black Knife Assassins are okay, but I think they're kind of let down because they have one annoying grab attack. Like, if you miss an attack, they grab you and backstab you, which early on in the game can one-shot you, I'm pretty sure. And later on in the game, it's just fucking annoying. Plus, they make their arenas extremely annoying. Either they're invisible, which is bullshit, just summon your mimic to kill him in that case. Or they're in this tiny little room where if you miss your attack, you're gonna get backstabbed, like, literally. And these guys move so erratically, missing attacks is extremely easy. I'll give them C. They're not going any higher than C because they piss me off. Next, we have Bloodhound Knight Darawil. He's actually probably the first boss I would say I struggled with. On my first day of playing Elden Ring, I went and fought him. He was maybe the third or fourth boss I fought, and it does feel rewarding once you learn his combos. I am a big fan of bosses that when you learn their combos, then you can defeat them. Obviously, it doesn't give it great replay value because you get that muscle memory, so if you ever go fight him again, you'll just shit on him, but it is quite satisfying when it takes you a while to learn it and then you finally defeat him, and this was probably the first boss that I really struggled with. I'm gonna give him a B because it is a satisfying fight, especially if you fight him early game. I mean, the later game Bloodhound Knights, they go down in like 2 hits, but yeah, early game it's a fun fight. Also, he drops a fucking awesome weapon, which I used for most of the game, so he gets B. Next, we have Bullscarrion Knight. Bowls, I'm not sure how you say that. He's just a giant with a sword and some lousy magic attacks. He'll get a low C. I mean, the fight is extremely easy, if I remember correctly, because he swings the sword like in slow motion, and his magic attacks are also kind of slow motion. So it's a pretty easy fight, so he'll just go in C. Not a very memorable fight either. Next, we have Commander O'Neill, who is, I guess, Commander Niall's younger brother and weaker brother, I guess. This fight, actually, I think I died more times to O'Neill than I did to Niall, just because I tried fighting him on foot, which is a recipe for disaster. He also does use the summon thing where he summons people to fight for him, but they're a lot easier to kill, and you can fight this on horseback, which makes the fight 100 times easier. So I'll put him at a low B. I don't think he's as good as Niall, but I still think he's a pretty solid boss right in the middle of Caelid. He also has that one really annoying Scarlet Rot attack that you have to get away from or you will die instantly, because once you get Scarlet Rot, it's all over. Next, we have the Crucible Knight. A lot of people really like this boss, and I do like this boss. I think he's a challenging boss. I'll put him next to Bloodhound Knight Darawil because he gave me pretty much the same sort of treatment as the Bloodhound Knight did. He was one of the first bosses I fought. You have to learn his patterns. He hits hard. He doesn't take a lot of damage. And his second phase pisses me off because, you know, you learn his pattern and the next thing he just throws a tail swing in the middle of there and hits you. But yeah, he's a decent boss. I think it's always a challenging fight when you fight a Crucible Knight, which is welcome. So yeah, I'll give it a B. I think he's a solid boss. Crystallians. I think the concept is okay, but in practice, this just doesn't work for me. Especially when they come in duo or trio fights, they're just annoying. They're just spamming. Especially this idiot with his fucking spear who just constantly jumping around, throwing his spear at you, pisses me off. So they get a D. They're not going any higher than D, I'm afraid. Decaying Exyx. While he does look cool and he is a dragon, the arena really lets this boss fight down. It's going in D because I like the dragon. It's like every other dragon. What's not to like? But the arena is god-awful, bro. And he's a Scarlet Rot dragon, which makes the things 100 times more annoying. But the problem with him is the guy gets stuck in the terrain. I get stuck in the terrain. Some of the terrain the Scarlet Rot goes through. Some of it doesn't. And it's just kind of extremely frustrating to fight. So it's going in D because of that. The Demi-Human Queens. I would have liked the Demi-Human Queens to be more in Limgrave rather than like Volcano Manor or near the Aldous Plateau, because once you get there, you can literally fucking 2 or 3 shot them, and it's just kind of a meme fight. But I think they're a cool boss, so I'll put them in C. Demi-Human Chiefs. This is a duo fight early on in the game. I mean, the thing that makes this fight hard is that there's a lot of little bitch boy ones hitting you consistently. But I'll put it in C. Pretty easy fight. They come one by one. One's just like minding his own business while you slaughter his friend, and then he'll come over. And in fact, he might not even come over. You might have to go to him for him to fight you. So yeah, not exactly the best fight, but not bad. Divine Bridge Golems. I actually quite like these. I'll put them in B. I just like the aesthetic of them. The fights aren't exactly difficult. You just chop away their ankles, which is their weak point. And after you hit them a few times, they fall over and you can just stab them in their exposed glowing hearts, which, I mean, it's an easy boss fight, but I just think because of the aesthetic, and I kind of enjoy fighting against them, I put them in B. Dragon Kin Soldier of Noxtella. I mean, the arena for this boss fight is pretty epic. It's just a giant skeleton sitting on the throne. I actually thought I was going to have to fight this giant skeleton or something. And then this guy kind of falls out of nowhere. He's kind of like a crippled dragon. For the first phase, he just swings his arms, which can be annoying, but you can just roll through it. And then the second phase, he turns it up a notch with his frostbite attacks, which did take me a while to figure out how to dodge. But all you have to do is sprint away. It's not that difficult. I think they're a cool boss. I'll probably put him up there with the other dragons. I don't think he's anything special, but I think he's still a decent boss. Erdtree Avatars. I fucking hate these guys. I'm not gonna lie. This fight is so fucking boring. Like, it's so boring. I'm not gonna lie. There's so many of them too. I'm gonna put it in D. He's kind of just a reskinned boss as well from like the tutorial boss in Dark Souls 1. You know, I don't mind fighting one or two of them, but then they're just everywhere. And they have like Scarlet Rot, and then they have stupid annoying magic attacks. And I just fought one or two and I got bored, so they go in D. Erdtree Burial Watchdog. Honestly, this is one of my favorite mini-bosses in the entire game, just because of the design. The design is kind of creepy. It can trick you out with the robotic way it moves, and then you mistime your rolls and dodges, but I think it's a good boss. I'll put it in B, in a pretty high B. I quite like the Erdtree Burial Watchdog as a boss. I didn't need to fight him like 10 times, but, you know, it's still a good boss. Esgar, Priest of Blood. This guy is annoying just because he has dogs. Dogs are the worst thing in any any Souls-like game because they fucking spam you, and his dogs even have blood loss, which means they can do some stupid attack where they literally one-shot you. So he goes in D. Falling Star Beast. I actually didn't have that many problems fighting Falling Star Beast. I've seen a lot of people talk about how they really struggled with, you know, the Falling Star Beast. The only one I died to was the one in the cave, because it's in a cave, so when he charges around and flails around, it's a lot easier to hit you. The other two you can fight on horseback, so it makes it a lot easier to dodge their attacks. I think it's a decent boss. I wouldn't even bother hitting the soft spot because it doesn't really do that much more damage. I mean, it is kind of annoying that they flail around a lot and it can be difficult to dodge. And also they have a stupid high health bar, and obviously they're made of rock, so they don't take too much damage, so it can take a while to kill them, but I still think they're a good boss. So I'll put him in B. And the full-grown Falling Star Beast, from my knowledge, all it has more is a few gravity attacks. So, I mean, it's going to go in B next to the Falling Star Beast. The Fell Twins. I mean, the arena is kind of cool, but apart from that, it's just common enemies. They attack you one at a time, so it's just a duo fight, but basically a solo fight. So I'm going to put him in C. Dragonkin Soldier is just the one of Noxtella, but not as cool, so I'd also put that in C. Okay, we're getting to some big boy bosses finally. Placidusax, Dragon Lord Placidusax. Now, the worst thing about this boss is the fact there's no stake of Marika anywhere near it, and I have to take the elevator down and run past those annoying beastmen, and then try and maneuver myself down the platform. I think I might have died more times falling off that cliff than actually to the boss, because if you try and jump down, you can take full damage. If you try and slide, like just walk off the edge, you like bounce off the side. I don't know what kind of broken mechanic is going on there. We kind of just bounce off the side and fall off the map, which is kind of annoying. The fight itself is probably one of the best aesthetics in the game. It's probably got the best arena in the game because it looks amazing. Fight itself can be frustrating because you can't get multiple hits in at a time. He has so many attacks that drive you away from him. He has the lock-on lightning attack, the fire attack where he breathes under himself, so if you're underneath him, you get hit by it. And then once you finally get him down to about a third HP, he starts using these fucking fire lasers that if you're anywhere near the vicinity, it will one-shot you. So, yeah, there is a few bullshit attacks in there that piss you off. And the guy also teleports, so, I mean, that makes everything worse. But the aesthetic is amazing. Could the fight have been a little better? Maybe, but I'm going to give him a very high A. I think it's close to S, but because there's so many great bosses, it doesn't quite scrape S. Next, we have the Elden Beast. Now, the Elden Beast, like Placidusax, looks fucking amazing. Like, in terms of aesthetic, this boss is probably the best looking boss in the entire game. And you fight him in this weird lake thing where he can go under the water, but you can't. Again, he kind of does a lot of attacks that drive you away, and kind of to draw out the fight a little bit, I think. But unlike Placidusax, this guy is literally made of glass, so you can chop away at him for a bit and he will die pretty quickly. I like this boss fight, but I think it will go in A. I'm going to put it in A. It's kind of on par with Placidusax for me. It could have been a little better if he wasn't consistently making me run away and having to chase him around the map, which can get annoying. That's one of my pet peeves when it comes to bosses. I hate fucking chasing them around consistently. but I'll give him an A, a very high A, close to S, both of them. Anyway, Element of the Briar, he's literally just the name of the Bell-Bearing Hunter, so I'll put him right there. I did not notice one single difference between them and the Bell-Bearing Hunters, so we'll do that. Fear's Champions. Now, I dislike Fear, but I'll put Fear's Champions in... C. The reason is, I like the concept. I like the concept of waves. Like, you fight one, then you fight like 2 or 3 of them, and then you fight another. It was pretty cool. The fat guy who was shooting skulls at me was a little annoying, but apart from that, I kind of like this boss fight, I'm not gonna lie. I know a lot of people didn't like it because it's just a bunch of NPCs coming at you, and NPCs are very easy to kill, but I kind of liked it. The only thing that ruined it was that I killed Fear after it instead of fighting the Lich Dragon, because I'm a moron. Anyway, Flying Dragon Agil. I think the only thing that makes Flying Dragon Agil better than any of the other regular dragons is that he's early on in the game and he's the first dragon you fight, and he just comes out of nowhere, which is really cool. And it's probably your first fight you fight on horseback, which is also pretty cool. But I'm going to put him in B because he's literally the same as every other dragon. So I think that's where he belongs. But I really enjoy fighting Agil, even though he has a fat health bar and it took me like 20 minutes to chop him down. And every dragon in this game can literally one-shot you if you make one mistake, which is also kind of annoying. Fire Giant. I'm going to put Fire Giant under these two in A. I think it's a really good boss aesthetically. Like, it looks the part. It has an amazing cutscene in the middle where he just like rips off his leg, which is pretty cool. But some of his attacks aren't like that good. I feel like his attacks are a little annoying because they can be very hard to dodge, and just like every other big thing, if you stand under him, he can't really do too much about it. Like, you just chop at his ankle, and it takes a while to kill him. But in terms of aesthetic, it's probably one of the best aesthetics I've ever seen in any game. Also, I don't buy this thing where people say, oh, he's so big, I can't even see what I'm fighting. I mean, dude, he's a 50-foot giant. Of course, you're a tiny human, you can only see his ankle. That's how it's gonna be. You know, that's not the reason I'm ranking him low. It's just that his fight can be kind of annoying, because some of his attacks are just unavoidable, especially where he uses that stupid like fucking shield or plate and flings the snow at you. I don't know how you can dodge that. You might be able to roll through it, but I never did, so that's why he goes in A. Anyway, Glintstone Dragon, Smaragd. Probably my least favorite dragons are the Glintstone Dragons, but they're just like every other dragon, so they're gonna go in B. Next, we have Godfrey the Grafted. You know what? I'm gonna rank Godric first because Godfrey is his ripoff. I'm gonna put Godric in A. I quite like Godric. I'm not a Godric fanboy like a lot of people, but I think he's a very good boss. I think he would have served fine as the first boss of the game instead of Margaret as well. A lot of people saying Godric should have been before Margaret. I don't really give a fuck. I did have a bit of trouble initially fighting Godric because his moves are a little spammy and it's hard to dodge. But I mean, his cutscene is fucking awesome. The second phase is pretty cool, how he's using a dragon as an arm. Although I think his second stage is a little easier to punish than his first stage. Also, this boss, by the way, he doesn't have a lot of replayability. Every time, once you've defeated him, if you ever go back and replay the game, I guarantee you will just shit all over Godric once you've learned the game. Because I went and replayed a few of the opening bosses again, and I one-tapped Godric. I also one-tapped Godfrey, but Godfrey is useless. And moving on to Godfrey, he's going in C just because he's a regen. He's literally a regen of Godric. He's the same boss, but without the cool second phase. So he goes in C. I'd rather them not sullied Godric like that, and like it kind of just makes Godric a little less special because there's just another one. And he looked exactly the same. I don't know, man. I just was like, bro, again. Like, the Godric fight was awesome. I didn't need it twice. Next, we have Godfrey Elden Lord, Godric's hero. Godfrey, the first Elden Lord / Horaloo, is going straight into S tier. Now, his spirit was fucking easy. I don't know why his spirit is in the game. That gold fraud, bro. I clapped that in one turn. I'm not gonna lie. Like, all you have to do with the spirit is literally keep rolling into all his attacks and then hit him when there's an opening, and you will kill him very easily. That kind of doubles for Godfrey's first phase, although he does have some cool AoE attacks where he splits the ground, and if you know, that can fuck you up. His second phase, though, is where shit gets real. You know, the man goes full cat killer mode, you know. His second phase is just insane because there's no other fight I've seen like that. Like, he goes full on WWE mode and starts powerbombing me, fucking throwing me around the arena, and the timing on it is so crazy and so delayed. Like, it's such a fat delay into such a quick swipe that he hit me so many times. But it was really satisfying to fight this guy. One of my favorite fights for sure. So he goes in S. Anyway, we move to Godskin Apostle. In my opinion, this might be the best mini-boss in the game. The Kaled one is a lot stronger than the Plateau one. But I'll put him in LOA. I just think it was a really rewarding boss to fight. Once you learn his moves, they're all really cool. You know, you learn his combos, you learn how to punish them. It was a fun fight. I actually really enjoyed fighting the Godskin Apostle. I think the Godskin concept is pretty cool in general. And yeah, just a fun fight, really. It's cool when he goes Mr. Fantastic mode. His windmill attack caught me out quite a few times until I realized you just have to roll through it. But yeah, a fun fight nonetheless. Godskin Noble will do before Duo. I like the Godskin Noble, but I didn't enjoy the fight as much as the Apostle. The Apostle clapped me quite a few times when I fought it. The Godskin Noble I died to, out of the 2 fights I fought him, I died to him once. So for me, he was a lot easier. His roly fat boy attack was also very easy to dodge, because if you just roll into it every time, you go straight through it. So I know a lot of people struggled with that. I'm assuming if you roll backwards, it will still hit you. But if you roll through it, you know, you dodge it every time. So yeah, for that, I'll put him in B. I think it's a good boss. I just don't think he's as good as the Apostle. Next, we have Godskin Duo, probably the most hated boss in all of Elden Ring. I won't lie to you, I used my Mimic Tier Summon. It was only like +5, but I used it because, look, this duo fight is not balanced. I'm sure you've heard everyone complain about it and tell you what's wrong with it, so I'm not going to go over why it's shit. While it does look like Ornstein and Smaug, it doesn't work like that, and I don't think it's as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I think they purposely put this here so people would be forced to try out the summons, because the summons is a big part of the game. They added that on purpose, right, to be a big part of the game. But I will put this fight in C. I think it's okay, but I wouldn't want to go fight it again. I didn't like have the time of my life fighting it, you know? Grafted Scion. I won't lie, I don't like this boss. He is the opening boss in the game, and you're basically meant to die to him. And then you can go back and fight him, but I went back and fought him when I was already finished with the game because I totally forgot about it. There is a few of them dotted around, one in Godric's castle and one somewhere else. And, you know, they're not the hardest fight. They're a little spammy, kind of average. I'm going to put them in very low C. I don't particularly like this boss. I do think it would have served better as a boss on the way to Godric. Kind of like Red Wolf of Radagon before Renala. I think this would have been a cool boss to have before Godric as like a mandatory boss, instead of like the opening weird boss that you're meant to die to. Anyway, actually, I'm going to put him in D. I hate him. He's going in D. Sorry, bro. Next, Grave Warden Duelist. I mean, this guy, he has a dual wield hammers, which is pretty cool. He goes into some crazy mode where he buffs himself. Still don't know what the buff does. Pretty easy fight, though. There's quite a few of these guys dotted around. I'll give him a C. He's just an average guy. Not really much to say about it. Next, we have Kindred of Rot. This guy can go fuck himself, bro. The guy literally has homing missiles of semen that shoot at you, bro. So annoying. This guy is so annoying. I know there's a boss fight, but these guys are everywhere. And when there's more than one of them, they fucking piss me off because they have homing missiles. And like a lot of mobs will die in one hit once you get further into the game. These cunts, they still take 2 or 3 hits to take down, and they're fucking annoying. So they go in F. One of my least favorite fucking things in the game are these guys. Kindred of Rot. Next we have Leonine Misbegotten. Also for me, one of the best mini bosses in the game. I just like how aggressive he is. Obviously, once you learn his patterns, he does become a lot easier. But I'm telling you, man, I died to this guy so many times. Like, I would expect to beat him in maybe 5, maybe 10 goes at the most. But it probably took me like 20, 25. For some reason, he kept killing me. I don't know why. His attacks are easy enough. But when I fought him, he just killed me so many times. I'll give him a very high B. I actually really enjoyed his fight. I think he's one of the best mini bosses in the game for sure. Lich Dragon Fortisax. Unfortunately, I killed Fear and I didn't get to fight him. He's the only boss in the game I didn't fight, which just pisses me off. It really does, because I'm a moron. I killed Fear. I did try and I was gonna do a replay through and get there, but I couldn't be asked. I got to the Draconic Sentinel in the capital and just couldn't be able to continue on. So Lich Dragon Fortisax. I did fight Lanciax, who is kind of a shit version of him. I'll just put him in B because he's with the other dragons. Although I hear some people say he's the best dragon in the game. I'm just going to put him there and feel shamed while doing it. Next we have the Lion Guardians. I mean, these guys are fucking annoying, but you know what? They're just a C. They're just average. I didn't know they counted as a boss. I won't lie to you. Next we have Loretta, Knight of the Halig-Tree. I guess she's meant to be the hardest Tree Sentinel fight. I actually don't think she is. I had more problems fighting the Draconic Tree Sentinel than I did with Loretta, Knight of the Halig-Tree. I killed her in one go. I think she's a cool fight though. There isn't too much difference between her spirit and her. The spirit one you fight like right before Ranni's Rise, and this one you fight on the way to Melania. I'll give her a high B. I think she's a good fight. And here's her spirit. We'll just put her spirit in B as well. They're basically the same thing. Mad Pumpkinhead. I kind of like this boss. He's kind of just wacky. He's kind of just wacky. Yeah? He's really weak. I mean, there's just random ones of him dotted around the map, and I just used to run up to them and kill them because they were fun to kill. I don't know. I really enjoy fighting this guy, so I'm gonna give him a high C. I don't think he quite deserves to be on this level, but he's still a fun boss for the trolls. Next, Mimic Tier. I actually quite like the concept of the Mimic Tier. I think it wasn't meant to be so much of a difficult fight, but it's just a cool feature to have there. It's literally a fully customizable boss fight. Although NPCs are extremely fucking easy to predict and kill, you could literally give it whatever gear you want, then put on whatever gear you want to fight it with and fight, which is pretty cool. So for that, the concept alone, I'll give it a B. But in practice, so the fights are pretty easy because, you know, all NPCs fight the same way. Miranda the Blighted Bloom. Bloom. So Miranda is literally a flower that doesn't move. She has poison damage, but the poison does nothing because you can kill her before the poison will kill you. She does have this weird magic light attack, but if you get hit by that, you'll shatter the game. So I'm just gonna put her at D. I don't think she's anything special. I just think she's one of those wacky troll bosses. And there's so many of her in the game, and I couldn't be asked to kill them more than one time. So she goes in D. Mog the Omen. Probably one of the hardest bosses to actually get to. This guy's at the bottom of the sewers. Under the capital. It took me so long to get to him. I had to watch a tutorial and everything to go find this fool. He did kill me quite a few times. He is kind of reminiscent of Margaret, except he has a massive fucking trident. He has the delayed attacks. His arena is kind of small and there's stuff to get stuck on, which makes it worse. I do think he's a good boss though, so I'll put him at the low tier of A. I didn't enjoy him as much as some of these, but he's still a pretty good boss. But that puts us to Mog Lord of Blood, which definitely gets S. This guy, it took me so many attempts to kill him. So many. This guy is one of the most difficult bosses in the game, in my opinion. I think only after Melania and Malekith, and then you have Mog. Like, he is so difficult. His blood attacks are really annoying, and of course he does that thing where he can yoink 3 of your flasks. There's actually a way to circumvent that if you do one of the quest lines, you can and kill all the bloody fingers. You can actually get something to put in your flask of Wondrous Psychic or whatever it's called. And if you drink that right before he does his if you drink that flask right before he does that attack, you will negate the damage quite a lot. His second phase though is fucking crazy. His second phase is insane. I mean, he starts putting this AoE blood shit everywhere and it becomes extremely, extremely difficult. Once I nailed his first phase, his second phase just kept clapping me. And that happens with quite a few bosses in this game. And let's not even talk about his aesthetic. It's really cool. And he also has Melania's brother just locked in a weird egg. So, you know, whatever. It's kind of funny. Let's move on. Magma Worms. This is definitely the worst dragon boss in the game. I don't know why there's like 6 of these in the game. I fought like 2 of them and got bored. I put it in C. They're an okay boss, but they kind of just wriggle around and with no aim and like throw up lava under themselves. And their sword attacks are so slow and predictable that, you know, they're not really a difficult fight. And I didn't really enjoy fighting them, so I'm gonna put it in C. Melania, Blade of Mikola. Probably the most polarizing boss on the list. I think if you like the challenge, she's probably the best boss in the game. If you hate the challenge, then she's one of the worst. I'm going to be very impartial and put her right up here at A. I think she's a very good boss. Obviously, forget all the lore implications and all of that. Her aesthetic is really cool. Her moveset isn't particularly difficult, except that one crazy move, but she hits like a truck. Her second phase is pretty cool as well. This is one of the 2 bosses where I had to use a summon to defeat. I could not defeat her without a summon. And even with a summon, it took me a lot of turns. Literally. It was crazy. She just claps your summon because she does that Scarlet Rot attack in the second phase and he dies in one tap. I think I literally had to keep leveling my Mimic tier up because the +5 wasn't good enough. So I kept going 1 and 1 and 1 till we got to 10. And I still died to her so many times. But I actually quite like her as a boss. I feel like if I really wanted to take the time that I would be able to defeat her without summons and all of that. The only really annoying thing is she does have that crazy spinny move, which waterfowl dance, which is really annoying. But I think the fact that they didn't make her a mandatory boss kind of negates her difficulty. So if she was a mandatory boss, she definitely would be ranked lower because she would have pissed me off to no extent. But A tier is where she belongs, in my opinion. Next, we have Malekith the Blackblade. This guy might actually be my favorite boss in the entire game. He's just so cool. I don't know what it is. His name is fucking cool. His nickname, the Blackblade, is super cool. He's got a cool haircut, you know, even though I think he's a lion, I'm not sure. He looks like he's got Godfrey's hair. His first phase is pretty underwhelming, I won't lie. His second phase is insane. Like, you can literally kill his first phase and die in 1 second once his second phase starts. That happened to me so many times, literally. He also drops your health down when he hits you with a certain attack. He fucking jumps around the arena. It's a fucking insane fight. But he's also one of my favorites, so I'm going to put him all the way up at S. I really enjoyed it. He's the other boss that I had to use a summon for, or I would probably still be fighting him. If Malekith himself was the entire boss fight and you didn't have to fight Beast Clergyman, he probably would rival Melania in difficulty, literally. But yeah, a really fun boss fight, and I really enjoyed it. Next, we have Margaret the Fell Omen. I feel like I might put him in S, but I'm going to put him in A. I think he belongs around about this tier. The only thing that drops him into from S to A is the fact that Morgott exists, which is just him but a better version. And Morgott is literally probably the most fun fight in the game, in my opinion. He's the type of boss I really I really enjoy fighting, because you have to learn his attacks and all of that. In terms of Margaret, his delayed attacks, of course, you've probably heard everything about Margaret at this point. I think he's actually a good first boss because he forces you to go and explore the entirety of Limgrave, the entirety of Weeping Peninsula. Because if you don't do that, you miss actually quite a few cool bosses. You wouldn't fight Leonine, you wouldn't fight a bunch of the mini bosses. So I think that's the whole point of having Margaret there, to kind of halt your progress and say go explore the map and then come back. I really enjoyed his fight. Even though I died a lot of times, it was really challenging. But it also teaches you a lot about the game. The whole delayed attacks, all the combos. You know, he jumps around erratically. Teaches you to punish at the right moment, which I really enjoyed. And then Morgott is literally just adding on to that amazing boss fight. They just even took it up a step further, which was even better. Like, just literally way better. I mean, Morgott rivals Malekith as my favorite boss, and Godfrey. I really love all four of these bosses, to be honest. Next, we have a Knight's Cavalry. I actually really enjoy these guys. Initially, I hated them because I wasn't used to the horse combat. So the first one you fight in Limgrave is on the bridge, and I kept falling off the bridge instead of dying to this moron. But whenever I saw them later on in the game, I was just like, yes, free souls. That's literally what they were later on in the game. And there is like 9 or 10 of them in the entirety of the game. And I'm going to put them at B. I actually really enjoy fighting these guys. They are very easy to kill, and they are one of the only bosses where you kind of need to fight them on horseback. There's a lot of bosses where you can fight them on horseback, but it can impede you. And I think just the Knight's Cavalry being a horseback fight is just awesome. Also, you can knock him off his horse, which is also pretty cool. I do wish, though, he would stay off his horse a little longer. He literally instantly summons it after one attack, but apart from that, he's one of my favorites mini bosses as well. Next, we have Nox Duo. If I remember correctly, this is the duo fight in the middle of Caelid. After you do like the lighting the flame thing in that mini city thing. This fight is just 2 NPCs. Not really that fun. I'll put him in D. Omen Killer. Kind of a shout out to Capra Demon. He even has dogs with him. I think he only killed me 1 time. He does this weird spammy attack. You can fight him on horseback too, if I remember correctly. He's not very difficult of a fight, but it's cool to have a throwback to Dark Souls. I'll put him in C. Next, we have Mr. Clean. I mean, I guess for lore implications, it's pretty cool that he's in the game. I didn't even know who he was because I haven't played all the Dark Souls games. So people in my Twitch chat told me who he was. The best thing about him is that he dropped me a +7 spear, which really helped me early on in the game. But I'll put him at B just because, you know, he's bold and he deserves it. Next, Onyx Lord. These guys are just kind of mid. They're kind of like elves with magic, which is cool, I guess. But their fights are pretty mediocre. You can stagger them. They don't have too much health. And I'm pretty sure Alabaster Lord, who is also on the... Yep, he's also on the list. They're the same thing, so I'm going to put them next to each other at C. Perfuma Trisha. Did I actually fight this boss? I'm pretty sure she's the one that buffs like a Leonine, you know? B. Just kind of annoying fight as well. Next, we have Putrid Tree Spirit. These guys wriggle around or flail around so much, but their attacks kind of have some rhythm to it. Like, you can dodge them. But I fucking hate fighting them. I won't lie to you. This is going straight in D. I fucking hate them. But I can see why people like them. Personally, I just fucking hate them. So they're going in D. Next, we have Radagon of the Golden Order. Now, if you've seen my video of me completing Elden Ring, titled My Greatest Achievement in Gaming, or My Greatest Gaming Achievement, whatever, it took me 1 hour and 15 minutes of gameplay to get by Radagon. I didn't use any summons. I didn't do anything of that. But I finally managed to beat him. His attacks are very annoying. He is a difficult boss, I will say that. I'm going to put him at S. Honestly, I think he deserves to be at S. The aesthetic is really fucking cool. You have the title theme blaring, and I think it's a fun fight. I really do think it's a fun fight, so I'll put him at S. Next, we have Red Wolf of Radagon. Shout throwback to some of the other bosses in the Dark Souls trilogy, but this fight is okay. I mean, it's a big dog. What's not to love about that? His attacks are actually very difficult to dodge. He has the magic attacks coupled with him swinging the sword really quickly. It can be very, very difficult to dodge all of his attacks, and trust me, for me, it was always a battle of who can take each other's health bar down the quickest, literally. Like, I was trying to hit him before he hit me as quick as possible. But his health bar is literally made of glass. He does die very quickly, which I guess is meant to offset how quick he moves, because it's very, very difficult to dodge his attacks, man. Very difficult. I'll put him as a high B. I think it's a good boss. And there is a few more of him in the game, actually, as well. So there is that. Next, we have Rykard, Lord of Blasphemy. Now, let me tell you, bro. I fucking love this boss, dude. This is one of my favorite bosses in the game. I know he's not a mandatory boss. You fight him with a special weapon, which you can actually go and upgrade, which I did. It isn't a hard boss. I only fought him twice. Like, I killed him on my second try. But I was so disappointed that I didn't get to fight him more, if I'm being honest, because it was a really fun fight. And he also drops a pretty cool weapon in Blasphemous Blade. His attacks are all pretty predictable. You do have to keep running around the arena, because if you keep standing in one place, he will come to you and then you'll get stuck in the lava and die, which I learnt the hard way. But all in all, I think the lore is pretty cool. The aesthetic is really cool, and the fight is just really fun. You know what I mean? It's just something different from all the other fights, which I really enjoyed. And also, if you go back to his dead body afterwards, like the Site of Grace, you'll find that his wife, or whatever she was, eating him, which is pretty disturbing. Anyway, next we have Scaly, Misbegone. I actually kind of fucking hate this guy, bro. Castle Morn, is that the one where you fight Leonine at the end of it? And there's just these guys on a pile of like rocks and dead bodies, kind of just like raising their weapons. I don't know, man. There's just something about this guy that I hate, so I'm going to put him in D. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I'm just going to put him there. I don't know. Plus, his fight in the cave is pretty underwhelming. Next, we have Sir Gideon Ofnir, the traitor himself. I'm not going to lie. This fight is meant to be pretty easy. And I like the concept that he learns all of the magic moves of people you've fought, because you've gone and told him about it, I guess. And he's meant to be the all-knowing. But this fight really fucking pissed me off, dude. He killed me so many times because he has Renala's moves and he just fucking claps my ass with them. I'm going to give him a C, but he deserves to be an F because of his magic spam. Soldier of Godric, I mean, no one needs to. It's literally the best boss in the game. S. Spirit Caller Snail, an interesting concept, but in practice it's just kind of whack. I guess he's meant to be a trolly boss. I'll give him a C to be very nice. He's really lucky not to be in D. Next, we have the Regal Ancestor Spirit. I mean, lighting the fires for both the Ancestor Spirit and the Regal one are pretty annoying. I mean, if you fought the Ancestor Spirit, that one is definitely a lot more annoying to light his fires because there's fucking archers that can one-shot you. They have, like, aim assist on. Like, they're playing on controller and it's really fucking annoying. But I actually really like this boss. I'm going to put it in A. I just think the aesthetic is really fun. I'll put them both in A. There's not really much difference between them, except one can heal themselves, the other one... They're basically the same thing. And I really enjoyed fighting it. It's a nice change of pace from, like, all of the frantic fights and the tough fights of all the other bosses to fight like this majestic moose, you know? It's like you're in Canada, which is cool, I guess. Next, we have Renala, Queen of the Full Moon. Now, she is a magic spammer, which is a bit annoying. But I actually really like her as a boss. I don't know what it is. I like the first stage. The second stage can be kind of annoying, although the arena is pretty cool. I just think her mechanics are kind of cool. She isn't by any means difficult, but I think she's a cool boss, and she can go at the low end of A, in my opinion. Next, we have Royal Revenants. Straight into F. They're ugly, they flail about, and they piss me off. A recipe to be F. Next, we have the Rune Bear. The Rune Bear cave fight is one of the most infuriating fights I've ever had in my life. He killed me so many times because his grab is fucking insane. He runs you over. Because he's so big and the cave is so small, it's very hard to dodge him. You have to, like, perfectly time your rolls. And his attacks are pretty annoying. Plus the cave, I kept getting stuck. And, like, half of my body was, like, glitching through the cave wall, and half of the bear was also in the cave wall, and it was just a really irritating fight. But all in all, I don't think the Rune Bear is a terrible boss. I mean, there's fucking bears all over the map. I would put him in C. Not the worst of the worst, but definitely not a fun boss at the best of times. Next, we have Starscourge Radon. I totally forgot about this guy. I don't know why, but he's going right to the top of S, just because his concept is fucking amazing. This fight, I know a lot of people hype it up, saying it's one of the best fights in all of gaming, but it just really is one of the best fights in all of gaming. The lore is really cool behind it as well, but just the fact that you summon all these NPCs you've met throughout the game to run into battle with you, it's just a really cool fight in my opinion. And Radon himself is just a fucking really cool character. The guy rides a puny horse, he has the fucking coolest hair in the game, and he also holding all the stars in the sky. And then he comes down like a meteor midway through the fight to just fuck you up, which is also cool. So Starscourge Radon, he's definitely probably my favorite boss in the game. So he goes right to the top of the S tier. Next we have the Stone Digger Troll. I don't hate the trolls in this game. They're all over the map. But this particular one is going in D because his arena is so tiny and he does these annoying AoE attacks, which for some reason I couldn't get the timing of my rolls down. So he kept killing me. He kept killing me, and also he kept killing me live on stream to embarrass me in front of my viewers, which made it all the worse. I just hated that fight, man. I just hated it. I don't know what about it was bad. His stupid AoE attack that literally takes up the whole arena as well is very annoying. Anyway, moving on to the Tibor Mariner. This guy is just fucking... I don't know what it is. I love this boss. He's just so wacky. He's got like a giant horn and he's on a fucking canoe in the middle of a lake. Sometimes when he teleports, he's also on land. I think the one in Leonia of the Lakes, when I fought him, he kept teleporting and he was just on a boat on land, which fucking cracked me up. I actually really like this boss. It would be disrespectful to put him in A, so I'll put him in B, because I just fucking love him. The Tree Sentinels. Probably going to be the most iconic boss of the game, or one of them. They're a cool boss, but they do show up everywhere, eventually. So I put them at B. They can go next to Royal Knight Loretta. I mean, they're the same thing. A fun fight, except... if the Draconic Tree Sentinel, which is one of the bosses missing, that one goes in F because I hate it. And he has a lock-on lightning attack, which I can never dodge. But he's not on the list, so yeah. Next we have the Valiant Gargoyle. I actually don't mind fighting the Valiant Gargoyles. I don't know what it is. The duo fight is fine. You know, the solo fight was fine. It's just the Blackblade Kindred that pissed me off. These guys were fine. I put them in as a high C. I put them at C. I don't think they're B, but I put them at C. It's not a bad fight. But everything else... But this guy, I don't know what it was about him. He just kept clapping me. Next, we have Wormface. I hate this boss, man. This boss is stupid. He might... it's just annoying. He's just annoying. And he uses the Death Blight thing where he kills you. He's going in D. He's going in D. And he's ugly, so... The Abductor Virgins. I really don't like fighting these guys. I did fight their duo fight at the end of the game. So, there is that. I'll put them at C... I'll put them at C because they look wacky and they're kind of a cool concept, but they're very close to being in D grade. And nah, if Exarch is in D, they're going in D actually. A Darn Thief of Fire. I'll be nice and put him in C because he's fat and he needs a win. So we'll do that. Electro Black Knife Ringleader. I don't like the Black Knife Assassins, and this one is the queen. I think it's a woman, the queen of the Black Knife Assassins, and it's a fucking difficult fight. Especially, it's the end of game too. It's right after Ranni's quest. It's a fucking difficult fight, but it's very challenging. She has some very difficult moves to dodge. She's also quite tanky. I'll put her in B. I think it's a good fight. Next, we have Ancient Hero of Zamor. These guys are pretty cool. I enjoy their fights, even though they're kind of weak. I think they're a cool fight. I'll put them in B as well. Next, then we have the Astels of the Void. We have Astella, Natural Born of the Void, and Darkness. I fought the Void as part of Ranni's quest, and the thing about these guys is they constantly run away. They constantly run away and make you chase them around the map. Probably my least favorite thing in the game, like I said, is when bosses do that. So for Astel, I'm going to put him in B. I put both of them in B. There's not too much difference between them, apart from the fact that they use like teleportate. They use the teleportation thing, which is annoying and grab you from behind. This guy does the Shadow Clone Jutsu while he does it, which makes him even worse than the other one. But they're cool to look at, but they're not fun to fight. Now, a few of the bosses are missing from this. Mainly, I think the Death Bird is missing from this. I would put the Death Bird probably in B. The Death Right Bird would go straight to F next to Blackblade Kindred because that's where he belongs. Let me just let me just double check if there's any bosses I'm also missing. Of course, the Draconic Tree Sentinel is also missing, who I mentioned. He would also be an F because he's an annoying cunt with his magic. So he's another one that pissed me off to no extent. Especially his first fight wasn't so bad, but when you have to fight him on foot, he is really annoying. And you can't use a summon in the one before Malekith either. So he pissed me off. Really and truly, I'd probably just rank him next to the other Tree Sentinels, but in my heart, he will always be an F tier boss. Obviously, the Godfrey spirit as well, but, you know, he's just Godfrey, and we talked about that already. I think there's also a few NPCs missing. Like, there was a Necromancer or some shit, like, what's his name? Necromancer Garrus or some shit, who you have to fight in one of the dungeons, who would probably go in D with the other NPC bosses. Also, like, a few, like, there's like Round Table Knight, some like Vike or whatever, and a bunch of the NPCs. They would all be in D probably because they're all the same. Also, a few of the dragons are missing, like the massive dragon in Dragon Burrow, whatever it's called, who I don't think actually counts as a boss because you can literally sit there and you chop away at her forever. There's also the flying dragon Egil. He's the same as Egil. I don't know. His name is like Grey something, and he's on the bridge. That guy is a cunt. The guy on the dragon on the bridge in front of the Blackblade Kindred is a cunt, because fighting him on the bridge is so difficult. So difficult, because if you fall off the bridge, you die. If you're in, he can literally light up the whole bridge on fire as well, which makes him even more difficult. So he's a cunt. And I think with that, I think that's all the bosses that aren't on here. If there's any that I missed, feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll tell you where I'd put them. But yeah, that is my ultimate Elden Ring boss ranking. We can't see it all. Would I move any of these guys? Those are the best bosses in the game for sure. Soldier of Godric, like Jesus Christ, that guy's amazing. Margaret is, I mean, these guys, you could interchange a few of these here, maybe to S, but I think that's pretty good. I'm sure a few of these might be able to creep up into A2 on a replay. C is mainly all of the common bosses, and then D, the ones who pissed me off. Does Exyx really deserve to be in D? Probably not, but he shouldn't have been a cunt. And they should have developed, they should have given him a better surroundings. He wouldn't be. Does Blackblade Kindred deserve to be here? Absolutely, and so do these two. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this boss ranking. That's all I got for you today. I'll see you all next time.